right, I think we are live. I am trying to tell. It looks like we might be. So, welcome to Toddler Tip Tuesday. So, we are here today to talk about some different toddler strategies. And if anybody is watching this later who normally would be seeing it through my subscriber list, you might be wondering why we went live. So full transparency, it just became very difficult to find time to actually create the videos. So writing, I am a writer. Writing the scripts was no problem. Coming up with the tips, making my blog post, all of that was great. But then actually finding the time to then actually go and film them and edit them when I'm trying to get work done and I have 2 kids and then keep the house quiet, it just became a lot. So we're trying it as Toddler Tip Tuesday live, and we're going to see how this goes. Hopefully it goes well, and we'll go from there. But so let's jump right in with what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to talk about cleaning up. So let's be real for a second. How many people, when you have your whatever room it might be, let's say your family room, your living room, toy room, you walk into it and it just feels like a toy store exploded. I think that's the example my husband likes to use. And then the second you try to get it cleaned up, you are fighting with a little tiny human who is full of personality and suddenly very opinionated and wants to disappear and not even clean up. So that becomes very difficult. We're in the same boat here a lot of the time. So what we have started doing is doing different games and things throughout the day to encourage to clean up. So we have one game that I promise you will help to end the bribes, the begging, the meltdowns from your toddler and from you, because there are times where we both are melting down. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is the Freeze Dance Cleanup game. And if you are one of my subscribers or you follow my blog post, you may have already seen a little bit about it. But it is a way to get your toddler to clean up their toys from wherever it is that you have them. So it actually works. Yes, it might sound too good to be true, but it really does work. And so we're going to jump right in. But give me a yes in the comments if you have trouble getting your toddler to clean up their toys. Definitely here we do. So let's talk about real quick why it feels like such a battle in the first place. It's probably because toddlers just developmentally aren't ready. They're not there, but also because they don't think like we do as adults. So the second that they hear us talking when they're in the middle of playing, all they hear is the wah, 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 wah. They completely tune us out. They're not focused. They're not paying attention. All they're thinking is, I'm playing and I want to keep playing. And why do you keep talking? Blah, 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 blah. So traditional methods don't work. They might work short term, but they do not work long term. So, for example, the nagging, the bribing, bartering. We've even threatened to throw out her toys before. None of that works long term because it's just a quick fix in the moment and you're not actually teaching them or getting them to go into cleaning mode. They're just doing it in panic in that second. So the Freeze Dance Cleanup game kind of helps with that. So for Freeze Dance Cleanup, what we do is, it's one of my favorite activities to get my daughter to clean up during the day. But what we do is we have the Amazon Alexa, but you could use your phone, whatever it is, and create a quick playlist. It can be a cleanup playlist, whatever you want to call it. And so you play the music. They clean when the music's playing, and then as soon as it freezes, they stop and they dance. So it's kind of like reverse freeze dance in a sense, because they're cleaning while the music's playing, and then they freeze, and then they can dance for a second, and then the music starts, and then they get to clean up again when the music starts. So it's fun. Part of the reason why it works is because toddlers thrive. They love moving and music, usually. So the movement and the music kind of get them distracted from what they're actually doing and gets them to be cleaning up without even realizing that they're cleaning up. So drop a music sign, your emoji, your music emoji, if you have a toddler you think would like listening to music while they're cleaning up, or this might work for them, I should say. Okay, so One of the problems with this game for some kids, though, is because it's freeze dance and it's kind of reversed, you might actually have to reverse it with them depending on your toddler, which is fine. So you might need to change it up just a little bit for them, and you could keep it as a traditional way of playing freeze dance where they actually like dance during the dance part, but then when you freeze, you clean up. So you kind of have to play it by ear with your toddler and see how things go. Now, some of my email subscribers who got a taste of this morning actually responded back with some of their questions. I always ask them for their input. So I'm going to pull up my notes here with some of their questions to talk about for the game and how you might tackle some of the problems you might run into. So, okay. So one person asked, what if my toddler just refuses to help altogether and walks away? And that's a possibility, especially the very first time. So I completely feel that one and I get it. And having a toddler is often a power struggle. And you're desperate in the moment to get them to do whatever it is, and they're just digging in their heels more and more and more. And what you need to do if that happens is to come at them and approach them in a much more fun way than you normally would. So you, instead of saying, oh, come on, it's time to clean up, we're going to play our game, you don't even need to say that. You just need to jump right in and say, oh, we're going to do freeze dance. Let's get going. We're going to do our freeze dance right now. And start explaining a little bit about it. Like, oh, every single time we hear the music, and then like start the music. We're going to dance, and then we're going to grab a toy or whatever it is. So you want to get their buy-in right away so that they don't just think like, oh, all right, we're just dancing, I'm going to walk away. And just start cleaning yourself, kind of modeling it and having fun and dancing as you go. I dance a lot with my toddler. It'll kind of rope them into the activity. Someone else asked, so this was a good one. My daughter does this a lot. So how do I get my toddler to actually put stuff in the right bin? So kudos to you, first of all, if you're using bins. So we have bins and we try to organize them. And a lot of times my daughter's very regimented and structured about what goes in which bin. But then we have times where she's like in such a rush to do whatever it is that we have to do next, or we said she had to clean up first before we did it, that it's like haphazard where everything is and then you can't find it. So if that happens, one of the best things that you can actually do if you have a really, really younger toddler, like 1.5, 2 years old, is to use picture labels, and then they kind of can know like a picture of a car on the bin that you want the cars to go in, things like that. What my daughter likes to do is she'll actually call like the bin for her cars the garage, and she will put them in, she'll call it like the parking garage, and so she knows to put them in the parking garage. So you can even label them, things like that, and that will help them to be able to know which bin to put things into. And then what you could also do is kind of break it down into mini challenges for them. So for example, like first say like, oh, let's go clean up all of our cars and find them first. So that way you're focusing on cleaning what goes into one bin first. That might help too. So make it smaller, more manageable chunks for them. Another question that came in, actually I think this one was on social media because I did a post about this on Instagram this morning. They asked, so what if my toddler thinks it's just a dance party and not an actual cleanup game? So I feel like that's something that might happen in our house because my daughter absolutely loves to dance. And it's super common that as soon as toddlers hear music, they're going to start shaking their little booties. But the trick is to emphasize the cleanup part. And if they start dancing, like, oh, okay, I'm so glad you're dancing. All right, now let's dance our way over to this toy, and kind of coach them through it that way. And then if all else fails and they're not cleaning up, you can always try the oops, we need to pause the music so we can clean up some more toys before the next round, and kind of get them to clean up a little bit that way. Another question that came in was, how do I keep this from turning into a big production, which I totally get. Which you might not want to start with this right before bed. That's usually our most difficult cleanup time too. So you might want to do it during the day when you're not like rushed to do something as the first time you're introducing it. But you definitely don't want it to turn into a big production. But what you want to do is have it kind of be more of a fun activity. You can set like a short timer and just do it for the short timer to start and like build up so it doesn't turn into a huge production. It's not like a big performance every night. Just make sure that you're doing it like structured with that timer, so you're always using the timer so they kind of learn to expect the game so it doesn't become like a big production. And it's okay if it ends up not working. But like I said, I wouldn't try it for the cleanup that's the most difficult for you. Another question that came in was, this was a good one. What if as soon as my toddler cleans everything up, they dump it all back out in 5 minutes? So that's the worst, right? So we've probably all had that happen. So one of the things you want to do is kind of think to yourself, is this habitual? Like they do this every single time, or are they doing it in that moment because they want to kind of keep playing? Because how you approach it is going to change depending on if it's something that they always do versus something that they're just doing in that moment. So sometimes they just might be overwhelmed. So you might want to try like rotating toys or trying to be playful. You can be playful like, oh no, the toys want to go to bed too. We got to make sure we clean them up and tuck them in. They need their rest right now, and kind of take that approach with it. But if it's something that is habitual, like they do it all the time, my best suggestion is to actually get like a backup bin, and that way they have like a dumping area and keep the other bin there and they can just dump there. Because for some kids, they're kind of more sensory driven and they might actually just need that sensory input and to just dump it. And if that's the case, I would definitely have that bin there, because then they can just dump it into another bin. So they get to they clean, they get to get their dump in, and then it's into another bin. So you're not like re-cleaning everything back up again. So hold on one second. Oh, I see there's a couple comments. Hi, I see some yeses. And then I think there's 2 more questions. And if anybody else have a question, please feel free to drop it in the comments. I can see the comments. I'll try to make sure I glance over at them and not just at my notes. I'm so sorry. But another person asked, so how can I introduce this so that it's not just another chore? So that kind of touched on this with one of the earlier questions, but you definitely want to make sure that you're kind of keeping it like the fun and silliness with it, so they're not associating it as another chore. You want them to kind of be like, think it's fun and lighthearted in a game. And the first couple of times would be kind of chaotic. It might be kind of hard, but if you stick with it, I promise it does get easier over time. And I actually have a bunch of other cleanup games, which I can talk about in a second, but I would definitely keep trying it, and it usually doesn't end up being a chore. Another person, this is my last question that someone had sent in earlier today, was, this is a good one. How can I make it work for multiple kids of different ages? Which right now I'm in the situation where I have a 3-year-old, so she kind of does that all, cleaning up. And then I also have an 8-month-old. So anytime he has toys out from like me playing with him, I always tell her like, oh, I'm going to clean up KJ's toys. You have to clean up your toys you played with. But I think this question might also be kind of geared more towards if you have like older kids and toddlers, which a lot of you might be in that situation. So if that is you and you're in it, this is a great question. So one of the best things you can do is kind of turn it into a competition. Not that you want your kids constantly competing against each other, but you can kind of say like, oh, well, who can clean up the most? Because that's something that's kind of innocent, but gets them both involved in cleaning up. You can assign certain types of toys. It can even be like, well, who's going to clean up the blue toys the fastest, or something like that, to kind of keep it simple, but kind of keep them both engaged. And again, it would depend on the age of the sibling, kind of which route you go. Another tip would be like to give them like different roles. So someone might be responsible for like getting the bins and holding the bins if you're using bins, and someone else might be responsible for, tidy, if you were like, it was coloring stuff you're cleaning up. Someone might be responsible for the paper, someone might be responsible for putting the crayons away, or whatever it might be, something like that. So definitely kind of assigning them roles would definitely help. You can also like have, I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. I was going somewhere with that with stuffed animals, but I can't remember what I was doing. Oh, like instead of like crayons, I was using another example. So like one of them can be responsible for cleaning up the stuffed animals and putting them away, and another one can be responsible for cleaning up like the car toys or whatever it might be. So you can kind of do it that way. So those are just some quick ideas for what to do if you have multiple age groups. And again, it does depend on what ages your kids are. But just a couple other things I wanted to talk about. So make sure that whatever you do, especially when you're first introducing the freestance game or any type of game for cleaning up, you're going to keep it short and simple to start. Again, you're trying to avoid making it that huge production and spectacle, but also because you want to keep it fun at first to get their buy-in. And then make sure whatever you pick, you're being consistent with your routines and things like that. And then just celebrate every single small win that you can. So anytime that, even if you have to like reset the timer and go again and play more music, celebrate how many toys they did, even if it was 5. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. You cleaned up 5 toys during that song. That is awesome. Celebrate any win that you can. So I also just wanted to quick mention, so if you need other ideas for any games, so if Freeze Dance doesn't work, or your kid is not into music, or you just want to be able to rotate through, we tend to rotate through things with my daughter. We find that works the best for her. She tends to kind of latch onto certain things and obsess on them a little bit. So we kind of like to change it up to kind of keep her from doing that. But I have a guide of 5 different games. One of my favorite ones is a color cleanup game. Another one's like a superhero rescue game. But anyway, there is 5 of them. You can get it. It's just like a free guide. Nothing you need to purchase or anything. But you can have that sent right to you. You can go to www.raisingmyteenagetoddler, which is like our company name. You'll see it's my social media. But www.raisingmyteenagetoddler.com/cleanup. All one word, cleanup. And I will, when I post this, put that in the, I'll pin a comment with it so that you can see it. But again, www.raisingmyteenagetoddler.com/cleanup. And there are 5 games, 5 different games that you can try with your toddler to get them to help clean up. But thanks so much. So we're actually at that time, I was thinking this was going to take about 15 minutes, and it has been, I think, almost exactly 15 minutes. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you are watching this later, thank you for stopping by to watch it. And I hope you found it useful and beneficial. And you can always find us on Instagram. I try to post different tips, tricks, and some real mom parent moments. We have our blog, which is also on our website, www.raisingmyteenagetoddler.com. It's /blog, and you'll be able to see and search for different topics. There's a lot of Toddler Tip Tuesday topics on there. There's some different blog posts just about what it's like to be a mom, because you all know it's pretty hard. And don't forget to have a good night, and we will see you next week on Tuesday. Bye. Thank you.